to my bus conversion. This is a 1977 Gillig 426-N school bus with a Detroit 671 center mount engine, what they would call a pancake engine, laid on its side. So I recently retired from what is referred to as the schooner business up in Maine. There's a fleet of National Historic Landmark sailing vessels that once hauled cargo up and down the East Coast. That became the inspiration for the interior that I built for this vessel. I built it for my purposes alone. I didn't consider anybody else's interests. I'm single, I'm traveling alone, so I built it for my personal comfort. And tried to implement many of the construction techniques that we learn about in building sailboat interiors, and then took my life as I could project it out and laid it out in 32 feet of floor space. So this is, as you come into the entry that I use while we're parked, this brings you right into a very small galley. Everything was handmade, as it were. We built it in place. We sort of designed as we built. There was a floor plan, but we didn't get focused on that. And because of the innovation and the talent of the young men that were working with me, they took some of my basic ideas and they were able to put the art to it. I'm 66 years old. I've already had careers, I've already raised families, I've already had mortgages, I've been married, divorced. I want to see some of America while it's still possible to see it. As far as why I chose the Gillig bus, I've been a fan of Gillig buses since I was 8 years old. My next door neighbor was the transportation supervisor for a large school district. And he came home one afternoon with a brand new 1966 Gillig C-180, and I heard it coming up the hill to the house. And some boys get weak in the knees when they hear a Corvette. I heard this engine come up the road and I just said, "What is that?" And then it came around the corner and I saw that front end and I just went weak in the knees. And I've probably driven conservatively about 350 different buses. This is a Kenworth truck with a roll cage built on it. It's a very strong machine. This bus could have easily continued to haul school kids. It could be hauling school kids now. It is that sound of a machine. So I chose it because I knew the machine, I trusted it, I knew of its reliability. It has a little bit higher ground clearance, so I could get it to some spaces a coach isn't going to want to go to. And it's a driver's machine. You have to drive it, and I enjoy that part of it. I needed to have house power in this vehicle because I have a small recording area, workstation, mix station up forward. And the power requirements for that had to be constant, steady, plentiful, and could survive a mix session that can take 7-8 hours at a time. So that then we had to address refrigeration and those kind of components, and I found a brand new company called Everchill that was really trying to break into the RV refrigeration market and offered a refrigerator that is heavily built, knowing that it's going to be sitting on a platform being shaken around in an RV, and it plugged into house power, which is going to give you a more dependable cool. And so I made my decision to do that. I'm very pleased with it, and it was half the price of the leading brands of RV refrigerators that you can purchase. It's only house power. It doesn't have any other 12-volt or propane option. It's just house power. But I built a bank of batteries that won't be compromised with this being run 24/7. I wanted the ambiance of a wood stove. That was a deal breaker for me. Whether it even heated the bus was irrelevant. I just wanted the ambiance of it. We put in some fairly high-priced air conditioner heat pumps, which the jury is still out on. And as we went aft or back, I just, again, tried to build my personal berthing space after how it was on my schooner, with the same kind of bunk, a single head, which is a composting toilet, and some basic utility here, water heater. I think my happiest build so far has been my shower. I'm very much in love with my shower, though it was just an absolute bear to build. A lot of individual single cuts for the glass tile because nothing in this bus is square. The process itself of building is a little bit different than you see in other conversions, and we chose this on purpose because sailboat interiors can't be moving around. They're going to be subject to a lot of forces. We used a lot of locust that we planed ourselves. We had the ability to do that, and it gave us the ability to use lighter framing, but were much stronger than a 2x4 frame construction. And the other challenge was making sure that these windows are 27 inches spaced apart. I wanted to maintain as many of them as functional as possible. So that set off a chain reaction of design issues we had to contend with, so that the interior, every piece of the structure is fastened to a steel frame to give it a tight integrity, and also to keep it from creeping inward as can happen with this. The Gillig is not the widest bus, and because it has a rounder shape, there's a little less interior room to work with than in a Bluebird or something with a little bit more square box on it. So I didn't want the interior to keep creeping in. We lost a little bit of room as it was. So that gave us the ability to frame it very strongly with lighter scantlings, as we would call it in the boat building industry or parlance, and gave it a nice look and feel, as you might get in a custom-built sailboat interior. Okay, I'm standing in the seating area, dining area, and spare sleeping berth. I wanted to keep the original midship heater because it worked, and it's very effective when you're traveling. And so we built the seating arrangement and the table around that. So a person my size, 5'7"-ish, could sit comfortably and not cram your knees or your toes up against it. I can seat 2 or 3 people comfortably. We have seating area here that converts exactly the right distance, about 1/4 of an inch from here when it's opened up, for a guest to occasionally sleep. And again, this was all done with hand-planed locust and custom built in place, as was the navigation station up front. And so it reflects some of the nice little touches that shipwrights will do. These little chamfered edges don't make the post any stronger, or do the nice curves of the pedestal make it any stronger or more stable. It's just more attractive. It's the art of the shipwright. These nice curves in the L brackets don't make the chair any more comfortable. It just looks nicer when you look at them. So now we're in the recording workstation area. And prior to me becoming a schooner captain in Maine, I was a recording engineer for Warner Brothers Records in Nashville, and had the honor of being director of studio operations under the direction of President Jim Ed Norman, and they were great years. I've never lost my interest in recording, producing, and playing, and this has allowed me to continue to work with some of my old friends in Nashville. We file share back and forth. I still build full tracks for demos here. I play piano, bass, a little acoustic guitar, and I program all the drums, and then I send off the files to my friends in Nashville. They put burning guitar solos on them and all that stuff. And because we know each other very well and we've worked together for so many years, we are still capable of making things feel pretty organic, even though we're file sharing in an effort to do it. I've been pretty impressed with the technology that gives us that ability. I still have my old pair of Genelecs that are now about 25 years old. The number of top 10 singles that they've mixed would be embarrassing to list. I'm loyal to them because they still work and I trust them. And so I built a very simple, basic workstation with a DAW that I am comfortable with, and that gives me the ability to work at my leisure and at my pace. I spend a lot of my time right here in this little station, so I wanted it to be comfortable. This little alcove here can be set up so that another player can sit with me and play comfortably. We've discovered that the head is a great vocal booth. We put cedar siding in there just because of the composting toilet. We thought that would be, you know, a nice refreshing smell to smell when you walk in there. And it turns out it just happens to be a slamming good vocal booth, if not a little crowded. So everything was done on the miniature scale, and it currently is serving my purpose as well. I had a large console that I thought of bringing, an automated console, but I find that that would be more equipment right now than I actually need. So in terms of what powers all this, I have 1,700 watts of flexible solar panels on the roof, and I have a 5,000, I guess it's kilowatts they measured in, inverter from Victron, and a fairly robust solar controller. And then that gets split off into a 12-volt inverter for these cabin lights, which are called berth lights. That's the only 12-volt system in the bus. Everything else is house power. And so in order to achieve steady power, I ran this system the other day for 8 hours. It's the longest I've had everything on all day long. It used 4% of my battery capacity. The water heater, frankly, when I heat up the water on shower day, uses up more battery capacity than the studio does. And I have 9 very large gel cell batteries tucked in the back of the compartment. I'm told they have about 1,200 amp hours. That's, I guess you're told to think of it as cutting that in half for what you're actually able to use, because of the way gels tend to charge. You don't want to go below 50% with them, so you're working from top to 50 all the time. Frankly, since I've been in Arizona, I've never exhausted the batteries for more than 10%. And by 9 o'clock in the morning, after the sun comes up, they're back up to 100. So I would say, for my purposes, with all the different variations of solar systems I've seen and approaches for power, this is working well for me. I don't know if it would be ideal for other people. The Victron components are expensive, and there are less expensive ways to do this. But I would say, so far for me, the reliability of them and the balance of them was worth the money. All right, so this is the driver's cockpit of the Gillig bus, and I've left it completely original, and I may just do that forever. I like it. It's utilitarian. I grew up driving these. I am used to it. I've even kept the original driver's seat in it. I was perfectly comfortable coming from Maine in that seat. I'm not a big fan of air ride seats, frankly. I don't like being jumped up and down all day long. So this is a very comfortable cockpit for me. This is a Detroit 671N inline six-cylinder diesel engine, old school. I've left everything as it was because I'm a driver, and this is a driver's bus. This bus does not give it to you. If you're going to get it down the road, you've got to whip it, and you have to know how to whip it. It's very basic. Its one luxury is it does have power steering, which I appreciate. And this is our little personal innovation that we built coming cross country. Somewhere halfway cross country, when it was cold, the throttle started sticking a little bit, and every time you try to shift, it wouldn't drop the RPMs fast enough. So I put this little rope together and put my hand on it, so that when I needed to shift, I could just pull the throttle up and shift gears. And it was so much like what my father would have done. Anybody else's father would have, bought a new cable and pulled the whole assembly apart. My dad would have just attached a rope to it. So it was so much like what he did. I'm just going to leave it there in his honor. Okay, well, I'm not sure that my reasons for doing this are as advanced as many others. I don't have a great mission statement, and I didn't have any illusions of changing the world or anything like that, or I don't have any visions of this being a superior choice of lifestyle over anybody else's choice. I just wanted to do it, and I tend to be a kind of guy that if I want to do it, I just figure out a way to get it done. I understood before I even undertook this isn't for everybody and probably shouldn't be for everybody. On the other hand, it's not my place to decide what your dream is or what it shouldn't be. And if you feel inclined to do this, then I think you're going to have to master your fears in order to get through it, because you will encounter many of them. You're going to encounter naysayers, you're going to encounter faux experts, you're going to encounter all kinds of negativity directed at you because you want to try to do something that's different and that people don't understand, and that tends to make friends, relatives, and parents uncomfortable when they don't understand it or couldn't see themselves doing it. Everybody's approach is different. Everybody's reasons for being here and doing it are different. And I think that's something to be honored and respected, that no two people need to approach this the same way, and no two people need to have the same reasons for being out here to do it. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you found the bus interesting and the story behind it interesting. If you'd like to have further contact with me, you can reach me at Robert Tassi on Facebook. Thank you.